Hello, everybody. It is my Catstide bringing you the very first podcast at the start of campaign 43. With me today, I have General Niz again, so I'd like to welcome him back to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It's great fun to be here. I love doing this kind of thing. It's always good to get some time out to chat to you, Cats. You're a fun guy.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, going into this campaign, we definitely have a lot of changes. Before we get to those, let's just talk real quick about the scrim this last week, which would be the last scrim. Your thoughts on how it went and how you felt the two scrims, guys. You guys ready for the actual start of this campaign this week?
Certainly, I felt the scrims to me. It's a semi-useful process. It's one of those. It's a hard one to gauge because you never normally get particularly great attendance through the scrims. And we certainly took a hit with that this campaign so far on the scrim attendance. It was an interesting opportunity to really get to test some of the things that we wanted to test and see how things worked with different variables that we wanted to try. So we definitely got some useful information from that, and it was a good opportunity for a lot of the newer members to get in and find some time to really start working with the more experienced members and learning new tricks of the trade, shall we say. So certainly there was some things we could get out of it, and I took it as a very positive response. We got a lot out of it and a lot of feedback from the armies in generals, especially. My division, I had a great thread up on comments on the scrim, and we got nearly 50 comments on that. So that's a good response from the community, making the voice heard on various aspects.
Yeah, I agree. It is sort of a semi-useful tool. You get to sort of get set up and see how things are running in your army. And the key part, especially for these two scrims, which you brought up, was testing some new possibilities to make 21CW a little bit more enjoyable. The two big things that I think we were testing were going to be the removal of optics for the vehicles and the risk system that was proposed. In the IC meeting, we talked about the optics, and it was determined that we were going to keep the optics in. I know that was something that you guys were looking to change, but I guess it just didn't quite fit what the admins thought 21CW was going for. And the other thing we tested was the risk system, which also sort of got the same response, is that it wasn't exactly what we were looking for at 21CW. So I think that was really a great opportunity for the tournament to test those things, and like you said, we learned a lot about what makes this place enjoyable to play at. Well, the good news is we were able to take the player feedback from both of those scrims, and on Saturday we were able to sit down, myself, General Niz, General Kilo, Major General Duke, Kaiser, and Atomic Peach. We were able to come up with an alternative plan that we think takes the players' concerns and some of the things that they liked about the scrims and put it into a system which we refer to as the ARAB system that creates a really good environment for 21CW. So Niz, if you want to go through just sort of a basic outline of what the ARAB system is.
Okay, the ARAB essentially is kind of a mix match, like a mashup of all the good points of the previous systems. Because, as you say, we tried the risk system. There was a fairly vocal, I won't say a majority, but a large portion of the players were vocal about that. And similarly, there was a large portion of people who didn't like the previous bid system and some of the elements of that. So we looked at what worked, through the scrim. Some of the things, like certainly a lot of people were positive about the chance of being able to play different map sizes and having inventory only maps in there. It brought a new dynamic to how we play. We've always been primarily an all asset tournament, but certainly a bit of variation never hurt anyone. A more selection ability, that was something we wanted to look at. At the same time, we felt there's a lot of parts of the risk that was complicated, which didn't really need to be in there. And with the draft system, there was a lot of things that always seemed to cause drama, not so much for the player base in the past, but in meetings between the HEOs and the admins. It was one of those it was a very subjective system. It was hard to quantify a lot of the problems, but they seemed to always spend a lot of time discussing various things. And we really wanted to take them, simplify them, but still leave a good, fun experience for everyone, and a lot of variation in the battle days, so people weren't getting bored and feeling like they were playing the same maps over and over every week or every other week.
So the basic outline that we sort of came up with was we'd still play 4 quarters for 2 hours each, and each quarter would be a different map. So for 2 of the quarters, the 3 AAG would be attacking territories of the USA, and for the other 2 quarters, the USA would be attacking territories of the 3 AAG. Pulling up the actual battle map, you guys got to draft your territories and pick the maps to place on them. And looking at the map, it's a pretty cool looking map with a lot of possibilities to create fronts and get in behind the enemy territory. So I think it will provide a lot of variety. There is one other thing with the map selection. One of the big complaints with the risk system was that we didn't know what maps we would be playing that week. So it took a lot of the strategic planning out of the week because you didn't necessarily know what maps you'd be playing on. So the 4 maps that are selected the week before the battle, so that both armies will have time to do intel and reconnaissance and develop strategies for the maps that they would be playing, which I know was a big complaint of the risk system. We changed the rule as far as the victory conditions. It's no longer a point system based on the quarters. It's a little bit different. So Niz, if you want to explain how an army can win the campaign.
Okay. This was one of the elements that we kind of took from the risk system. Was it gives the ability for a variable campaign length, and it introduces a bit more of a strategic element on the territory map for the HCOs to worry about. In that the victory condition is no longer tied to a set number of points. It's tied with there is no points. If you win a territory. If you lose your territory. So it's very simple in that aspect. And to win the overall campaign, you need a set percentage of the territories on the map. Now we both start with 30 territories. The victory condition up until week 6, I believe. Is that correct?
I think the end of week 6.
The end of week 6 will be 70% of the map. So that is 42 territories total. So it doesn't sound that much when you think, oh, that's only 12 territories. But when you actually work out, the actual amount of territories you can take in a week, that's actually only possible or only attainable if one side completely steamrollers and wins every single round in the preceding weeks. So the chances of it ending on week 6 is very, very slim. In week 7, the percentage will drop to 65%, and then for weeks 8 and 9 it'll drop to 60%. If at week 9 we're in a situation where no team can win in that week, week 10 becomes a playoff round where it becomes sudden death, and essentially the winner of that battle day will then win the overall tournament, which we think that's a fair balance. It certainly gives both sides opportunities to win, and it should engender some closely fought battles, because one of the interesting things is that if we have a tie in a quarter, there's no longer opportunity for ties, so there's no possibility of a tie. Instead, if we're tied in rounds won and lost, it goes to a ticket count to decide the overall winner of that quarter. So you're always playing for something, even if there's a quarter that you might feel is lost or you're gonna tie it, you still want to play and try and eat those tickets up to make sure you're gonna win on the ticket count. So it should be a bit more competitive, and it doesn't give you any opportunities to sit on your heels and relax, because it's going to be hard fighting all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we had done with the risk system was that the defender only played one side of the map, and we felt that created too much of a potential bias. So that's part of the reason that we decided that we were going to go to you alternate sides back and forth, and like you said, on those maps where one side does have a clear advantage, even though you may lose the round, those 10 tickets of training your guys how to res or could really make the difference in winning or losing a quarter. So I think
there's some maps with the new map sizes that we're working. There's some maps where the flag placement might bias a particular side, or there's a couple of maps where there's unbalanced assets. Like I think it's I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's one where one side gets 2 little birds and the other side only gets 1, and one side gets a tank but the other side gets APC and things like that. So to keep it balanced, certainly there were complaints with the risk that we're playing only one side. You can pick a good side, or good side in quotation marks, which has advantages and really play that game, that kind of system. Whereas switching back, this is something we took from the bid system again. Is you switch sides, so it's going back to the more familiar play style, and that should nullify any inherent advantage one side has, because obviously if you're switching sides, you're both going to gain the advantage at some point during the battle.
Yep, I think that was a great adjustment. Okay, well, before we wrap this first podcast of the real campaign, Niz, any final thoughts on the new systems?
It's important for the community to remember that this is something that both divisions worked on with the admins. We all come together and worked on it. We listened to everyone's arguments and comments and really tried to do something for the betterment of everyone. It wasn't just something that come from one side or the other. This is a completely unilateral proposal. We've done our best. There's always been accusations in the past that perhaps the admins are against certain divisions, or that other divisions, will want to do something to gain an advantage, and that's definitely not the case here. Is that it's something that we've all felt the time to come to. We've took time out of our lives to come together to try and work out a solution that's going to be best for everyone, and really try and solve everyone's problems.
Yeah, Niz brings up an absolutely excellent point. This is something that we spent a lot of time putting together as both armies from both sides with admins, and they're talking. It was a long night filled with lots of drinks and laughs, and we really hope that the players find this is a good system and a good compromise, and really takes a lot of the good things that makes 21CW a great place to play, and it makes it even better. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, Niz, for just the opportunity to get to work with you on this, and B, for spending some time in the podcast with me.
No problem, Niz. No problem, Cats. I hope you've recovered from that long night of drinking.
Yeah, yesterday was pretty rough. All right, guys. Well, the campaign starts this weekend. I'm sure your captains and officers want to see you in practice, and we all look forward to seeing you on Saturday for the actual start. So this is Kat signing off.